Hello and welcome to this episode of Courageous Me. Today we have got the extremely energetic and effervescent Bonita Nuttall. Now, Bonita is a public speaking mentor and coach, and she makes a living out of doing something that most people fear, which is not just being a speaker herself, but she teaches people how to get up on stage, get in front of that microphone and use their voice. So Bonita, welcome. And before we hear a little bit more about you and your background, can you tell me what excites you about this conversation that we're going to have today about courage?
Thank you so much, Kim. It is awesome to be here finally. Yay! So lovely to be here with you today and to be able to have this conversation. I think what really excites me about it is because I feel like from a very personal space, I have been faced with many wonderful opportunities to show up courageously this year. Some of them a heck of a lot easier than others. Some I'm still digging really deep for. And also because I feel like the world could use a few more courageous conversations. And I feel like when other people choose to have them, like by us having this conversation, it somehow also enables and supports others in being able to have those conversations for themselves as well. And so I think, yeah, those are two really exciting reasons for us to be having that today.
Oh, it's so true. And you know, even since I've started the podcast, I'll get people coming to me saying, I did this, or I, signed up for something I wouldn't have otherwise signed up for, or did something I wouldn't otherwise do because of either something you said or one of your guests said. So I'm so delighted that we share that same passion for getting more people out there doing things that, yeah, they are uncomfortable, but you're going to survive and you're probably going to, be in a much better place for doing it. So tell me about Bonita. Firstly, your voice. You've got one of the most beautiful, soothing, deep, velvety voices. I want to know where that's come from. And secondly, where have you come from? Tell me a bit about you and let everyone else, learn a little bit about where you have been and what your journey has been to date.
Thanks so much, Kim. And thank you for the beautiful compliment. That's so lovely. You wouldn't have said so, having grown up in a very small town called Vereniging. It's okay, don't try it at home. It's
Where's
a really
that?
small... It's a very small town about an hour outside of Johannesburg in South Africa. And I must say, when I was growing up, I had a very flat South African accent. And so if I went to drama school, I wanted to be an actor. And when I got there, I went to my voice coach and I said to him, dude, you got to help me. I said, because if I continue speaking like this, I ain't never going to work. And so it's been a whole process of my life of Kim, and I think we'll probably touch on this a lot more, but my life journey has been one of connecting to my voice, and not only from a physicality point of view of changing and leaning into and creating the kind of voice that I want for myself from a work perspective, but probably more so from a spiritual perspective. And so, as I say, I started out wanting to be an actor and director, and then I was like, nah. I studied that and I was like, nah. And so somehow fell into broadcasting and worked for a pay TV station in South Africa called Mnet for some time. And then I fell into TV presenting, which was really cool. And I got to wear all sorts of crazy hairdos and got to do all sorts of crazy things. And then also started exploring a bit more about who I am. And that's where I started sort of stepping out of the, Bonita, the younger version coming from Vereniging, and it's going, what are all the possibilities of who I could be and who I want to be and who I really am, and how do I connect with that more? And as that exploration continued, I somehow fell into investigative journalism. I didn't study journalism, but through the people that I met and my networks, I got involved with a company called Carte Blanche in South Africa, and I was with them for about 7 years. And it was such an amazing journey of being able to give a voice to other people who otherwise might not have had one. And what a privilege that was, and also really hair-raising. We were in the ghettos with some of the most dangerous gangsters, and I got to free dive with tiger sharks, which was exhilarating and terrifying, and I touched one in the wild ocean, which still blows my mind. But fortunately, the guy was in front of me, so I thought, well, if anyone's going to cop it, it's going to be him. And Yeah, and I got to climb Mount Kilimanjaro with Martina Navratilova, and so I've had the very wonderful opportunity of being able to do some pretty fun things and exciting things, and I might be a recovering adrenaline junkie as well, But throughout that journey, I also started exploring my own speaking voice and speaking professionally. And so at the age of 23, I started my first motivational speaking company called Rocketology. And I started helping youngsters with their own mission of finding their career path and connecting to their passion and their purpose in life. And the premise for Rocketology was to get a rocket up the arse. So
I was going to actually ask, where did rocketology come from? But that's a beautiful explanation.
And so that's where the sort of motivational stuff started already. I'm wired that way for it, and started doing emceeing and voiceover work. And I think after 7 years in South Africa of giving people bad news every Sunday night, I eventually had enough. And I thought to myself, hold on, there's got to be more to life than this. I recognized that we were creating and creating change, and sometimes we weren't. And that was a really big challenge as well, was knowing that we were showing what the problems were and bringing justice and all of these wonderful things at times. But I wanted to make a change in a different way. And so in 2012, I attempted an immigration stint here to Australia. And unfortunately, that didn't work out at the time. But I did discover the Coaching Room Australia, where I went and studied neurolinguistic programming, and I discovered neurosemantics as well. And it was like I just found my home. It was like I found my language, and I started understanding a framework for why we are the way that we are as human beings, and how do we do who we are. And so with that, I then immigrated and managed to get into New Zealand. And when I got there in 2015, I was like, okay, well, what niche would I like to kind of focus on in the coaching space now that I'd gone back and finished my coaching studies in Australia? And I was like, well, communication's been my thing for over 20 years. And so it just really seemed like a natural fit for me to support other people in connecting with their own voice and being able to use it effectively and with impact in the world. And yeah, so over the last few years in New Zealand, 8 years in fact, I worked and developed my various programs in public speaking, and from the voice code, where it's about, I believe that our voice is like a fingerprint. There's only one like it. And so there's nobody on the planet, who can say what we can say based on our experience, based on, the expertise we bring to the world, based on who we are as human beings. And so I don't consider public speaking something that is just, okay, let's just get up and do a presentation. It's like we're sharing who we are with the world. And that is such an honor and such a privilege to not only do, but to help other people to do that as well. And at the same time, I've always really had this deep connection to working with women. And I think it's because of my own journey of finding and connecting to my own voice. And through the years of exploring what that means, I came across what I call now Turn Up the You. And Turn Up the You is really my leadership, working with women in leadership, but also men as well, working with them in connecting to their own sense of authenticity, bringing more of their authentic selves to life. And I like to say that Turn Up the You is the antidote to the global culture of playing it small, playing it safe, and playing down the specific parts of us that prevent us from realizing our full potential.
And why do you think, oh my God, there's so many things I want to ask you off the back of this. Firstly, let me just go back. What didn't you like about acting? Like, why did you decide that that wasn't for you, given that, being in the limelight and all of that is not a problem? What wasn't there for you?
That's a great question. I think if I, just off the bat about that, it was like I could already see that the industry was... it was going to be a tough industry, but also one of those where it wasn't about how good you really were at times, and especially not back then. It was about who you knew and what you were willing to do to get the job. And I just noticed that that was just not something that I was willing to do. There were some lines that I wasn't willing to cross. And I kind of just felt like I thought acting was one thing when I was at school, and I thought I was the shit, man. I was like, yeah, I got this acting thing nailed. And then I got to college and I was like, oh my God, I suck. This is terrible. How did I even think that I could do this? And so, I mean, obviously with the training, I got better at it, fortunately. But it was just, it wasn't aligning, this being somebody that I wasn't. It was like, shit, man, like figuring out who the hell I am in the first place is hard enough, let alone now trying to figure out who somebody else is and then trying to be them as well. So it just, my heart just was guiding me in a different direction.
That is glorious. And I was listening to a masterclass with Matthew McConaughey just recently. And, you know, he's an actor and made a very, very big life and name for himself. And he said the same thing, because when he was doing this masterclass, he was showing up as him, as Matthew the human, not as a character that he usually plays in a film. And he said it was really quite intimidating because he'd never played himself before. He'd always played someone else. So given, I guess, you've been on this quite ginormous personal journey, that totally makes sense. Oh my goodness, that makes so much sense. How do you think though, and the journey to really go deeper and understand who you were and what your voice was or is, tell me a bit more about that. What was that journey? What was the exploration? What did you find out about yourself that maybe you didn't know that came out through developing, you know, who Bonita is as the human?
Oh my God, Kim, that is such a big question. And I'm going to go there. Okay, we've got this. So I grew up as a pastor's kid. So from a very young age, I was a role model. We always had to be on best behavior. We always had to be the polite, well-behaved kids, at least at church. And behind the doors, my brother and I would kill each other.
I love that.
But, you know, it was like best behavior. And I found that I spent my life stepping into these roles where I continued that. It was like, who do you want me to be today? I'm what I like to call show pony 2.0, recovering perfectionist and creative enthusiast. And I kind of feel like I've probably been through more reinventions and resets in my life, and I'm probably hot on the heels of Madonna if I have to think about how many I've actually gone through. And I kind of feel like over my life, I became a pro at shape-shifting into whoever it was that I thought I needed to be in order to be acceptable, in order to be loved, in order to feel like I belong, and even to be successful. And so I became head girl at school. I became a TV presenter where we got given a code of conduct that we had to live by, work by, but live by. And the same with carte blanche as an investigative journalist. We became ambassadors. We were these role models. And so it was never about, you know, who am I? It was always about who I needed to be, what role I needed to play. So the irony there, I suppose, Kim, is that I didn't want to be an actor, but really... what I landed up being was an actor, you know, and I thought for a long time I was doing a great job as this show pony 2.0, until eventually one day at about the age of 21, I fell in love with my best friend, and I realized, I was like, oh shit. I was like, well, this is bloody inconvenient, isn't it?
Was it reciprocated?
Sorry?
Was it reciprocated?
No, it actually wasn't.
Now it's a hit.
And it was unreciprocated. But, you know, and that was okay. It was, I discovered that I wasn't the perfect daughter, and there would be no, you know, white picket fence, and certainly no wedding that any of my family would want to attend. Other than my baby sister who wanted to come out before me, and I told her to wait her turn. So... I mean, fortunately, my brother has gone on to give them the two grandkids and 2 Labradors and a beautiful Dachshund named Chili. So, you know, it's a happy ending for the most part. But, you know, Kim, it's been a journey. It really has been a journey. And what I began to realize as I reflected on Turn Up the U in my own life is that as an investigative journalist, as a TV presenter, most of the work that I was doing, I spent my life giving a voice to everybody other than myself. And as a speaker, I was always erring on the side of caution. I would always want to be saying, I was always playing it safe, wanting to say the right thing or somebody else's thing, but never really my thing. And so with that, life came along and hit that reset button about, as I say, about 8 years ago in New Zealand. And that's when I went over and I had the opportunity to reset and start again, and which was really scary. I arrived in New Zealand and I was over the moon. I was like, nobody knows me. I get to be and do whatever I want. I was like, this is awesome. And then I also realized that, shit, nobody knows me. And wait, who am I now? And what do I want? And so it began, this process really began of resetting again and reconnecting to who I was back then and who I wanted to, connect to in terms of Bonita, not Bonita who I think everybody else wanted me to be.
And that's a really interesting point, though, isn't it? That you got to reset again in a new country. No one knew you, so you had no past identity, which, it's interesting because I see a lot of people, and I've been going through this myself, where you've got an identity that you've kind of hung on to and, put your hat on for so long, and changing it with the same audience is hard work because you're sort of saying, yeah, I was this person and now I want to be this one. And by the way, I know you think of me like that. Can you change your mind, please? Yeah. And as we know, trying to get other people to change their minds. So getting a chance to almost start off with a clean slate without that identity, without having anyone know you. I guess there's pros and cons of both. But where did you get started, knowing now you've got this opportunity in New Zealand? What did you do to really find who you were now in this new place?
Sure, that's a really great question. Kim, I think given the coaching work that you do as well, I'm sure you'll agree that by coaching others, inevitably we are evolving our own selves. And more often than not, the clients that I have worked with over the years, as they're talking, I'm like, oh God, oh shit, that's still happening for me. Right. Yes, I've got to. And I'm finding that as I'm supporting them in how to sort of evolve and grow themselves and for them to empower their own selves, I walk away and find that evolution is continuing in me. And I think it's also about intentionality, Kim. I'm still blown away, and not to be judgmental about it, but I'm still so blown away when I meet people and they don't think about who they are, and they don't think about how they are who they are, or what the impact is of who they are on the world and on others, and how am I actually showing up in the world, and is this the result that I want? And if it is, great, let me continue that, and if it's not, well, what do I need to do to change it? And I kind of feel like I've always, and it's that whole thing, right, of ignorance is bliss. Because I feel like, for me, man, I tell you what, just not having that awareness would sometimes be amazing. To just go, I don't give a shit how I'm showing up. I just don't care. But I can't. And so it's just a continual process. Working with myself, I think probably from a really practical point of view, I think was working with the Enneagram. So the different personality types that exist. I work a lot with that with my clients as well, in uncovering, some of our blind spots. What are the core motivations that drive my behavior? And what are the core patterns that I've been playing out over, in my life? And what are the core fears that I have? But also, like, what are my strengths that I bring to the world? And looking at that consciously to go, how am I showing up? How is it serving me? What's the payoff I'm getting there from that? And if it's no longer serving me, and if it's not really having a positive impact in the world, then how do I go about changing that? And I think I just want to say one more thing to that, is that it's a process. Like, I sit in front of you and in front of everyone that's watching and listening to this going, man, I am a human in progress. Like, every single day there is still stuff I go, oh, Matt, how is that even still possible that's still how am I still doing that shit? I thought I nailed that.
You on that.
And it's just going. So I think, working with the Enneagram, and journaling has really helped me. Meditation has really helped me as well. And I think things like just creating healthy habits for myself. Going to the gym. When I first arrived in New Zealand, I was 18 kilograms heavier. And I was carrying a lot of protection, I think, for myself.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Oh, wow. And just for those who don't know what the Enneagram is, how would you describe it?
So the Enneagram is like this beautiful map of personality. It is this beautiful blueprint. It's almost like of who we are, of how we function and show up in the world, and it gives us a really great idea of how to get ourselves out of the boxes that we put ourselves in. And so it's not one of those, oh well, you're just a type 2 and you're always going to be a type 2. You know what I'm saying? It's like, this is the shit that I have conditioned myself to be. These are the beautiful things that I've conditioned myself to be. And how do I get out of that? How do I free myself and liberate myself from the constraints of my personality so that I can have more freedom, more option, more choice, and stay more in my personal power?
Oh, I love that. And look, my mission at the moment, and these are the words I use, it's to empower more women particularly to live kick-ass liberated lives. I love the word liberated because it means that kind of freedom from limitation, free to be me, who I am, as I am, perfectly imperfect, warts and all. And I just love that.
Oh my
and
God,
I
love that.
too love the Enneagram, don't know it nearly like you do. But in going through that and understanding more about you at that level and that deeper level, what changes did you make in your life to accommodate that understanding and that awareness that maybe you didn't have prior?
I think I started going through life, I think, more consciously as much as I possibly could. And so being mindful of, okay, these are my patterns of putting other people's needs and wants and desires ahead of my own, and to my own detriment. And, you know, this is, there's my my core fear of not being wanted or not being loved or lovable. And this is how it's showing up in the world. And in that space, also then doing my best, which hasn't always been easy, but doing my best to bring compassion to myself in kind of going, okay, well, there it is again, instead of going, oh my God, you dick, like, what are you doing? You know, to rather start talking to myself more patiently and with a lot more kindness. And it really is, as I say, Kim, it really is just a process because I still find myself doing it. I still find myself, and I feel like life is a spiral, right? I feel like it's this beautiful spiral that it's kind of, and I wish it sometimes were linear. It's like, oh yeah, learned that, check that, tick, 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 tick off the box, but it doesn't work that way. Life is a spiral. And so sometimes when I feel like I've learned something, I'm like, yeah, nailed it. And then I'm going deeper level. Oh, okay, got to release just a little bit more at a very deeper level. And so I think bringing that level of, I would say consciousness, kindness, and awareness to going through life is probably one of the biggest changes. Yeah.
Oh, I think that's beautiful. And that, you know, you've answered that question so beautifully. I know it's quite a difficult question, but having that awareness of who you are, how you show up, what you can do differently to show up the way you want to, and all of this through a test that we can do. Like, it's quite remarkable, isn't it, how accurate it can be, but how you can then relate those learnings into your everyday and make some changes. So a couple of things. Public speaking. Why public speaking? I understand, you know, now it's about finding out who you are and having your voice. So why public speaking from the journalistic background to public speaking? Tell me how that happened.
That's a great question. You know, I seem to just fall into things, Kim. But it just made sense for me. You know, I'd been speaking since, you know, I was that annoying kid in school that every time there was an oral exam, you know, I shot my hand up. I was like, oh, pick me. And then, you know, I'm the same kid who pranged my grand's BMW the night before my final maths exam and got out of writing it. You know, I was like, yay, awesome. Sorry, Granny.
Oh, your parents would have been delighted. Yeah. And Gran.
So it's... public speaking has always been something that's been really dear to my heart. And I kind of feel like since coming to, since being in New Zealand and really delving into communication, I felt like it was a place that probably I could be the most supportive. And I think probably as that's evolved, in terms of, you know, what my background is and how I could bring my background and my expertise and skills and things like that to something and to help people, it also became more of a passion for me when I started realizing as I'm working with my clients how people come to me and they're like, you know, Bonita, I want to do better in the corporate space, or I want to be able to take my expertise on stage and go share my messages and my ideas. And I'm like, awesome. And what we go do is we uncover how way back when, in their childhood, they were teased for something, and that prevented them from actually having a voice that allows them to connect to their own personal power, where they're not speaking with authority, where they're not speaking with the level of conviction that they know is possible for them. And being able to change that not only changes the way that they show up in work, but on stage, but then it changes at home. And here's the thing, it's not possible for us to change something only in one area. It's like, unfortunately, when we go to the gym, they say to us, I just want to burn the fat here, on this part here. And they go, no, you can't. You're like, when you're in the gym, where you're burning fat is like over your whole body. And so public speaking for me really is that. It's not about only being on stage or in the boardroom or the courtroom or any of that thing or any of that. It's everywhere we choose to use our voice and present our ideas or share who we are with the world. And that could be with our friends, with our family, with our spouse, with whoever it might be. And actually, Kim, I have found that sometimes the hardest part, and maybe that's because of my own journey as well, but sometimes the hardest part is actually using our voice with that level of authenticity and conviction and courage with family and with friends.
Oh, that's beautiful. So really, yes, people might come to you for help in public speaking or with their career or something they've got to do, but it's so much more than that. And if you really want to get good, I would say, therefore, at doing the speaking, going in and understanding exactly what your voice is, where it's coming from, what it is that you want to get out that maybe has been there since childhood. That's so much more and so much grander and deeper. But wow, I guess you would see people literally transform their lives then, not just their ability to get up and not completely freak out or want to vomit when they're on a stage.
Kim, it's been honestly, and it's one of the things, like if you'd said to me when I was younger, Bonita, one day you're going to help people with public speaking, I'd be like, no, not a chance. Like that, people hate public speaking for the most part. People are terrified of it for the most part, and it's got a really bad rap. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like, but I feel like it's been far more a purpose for me in my life. As I say, because of my own need to connect to my own voice and to finally start sharing and speaking about things that are important and valuable to me, that I'm able to help people do the same. And so being able to see somebody, for example, come and work with me who, was already a general manager, and she was in meetings, but she, because she believed about her life, the beliefs that her parents had given her that she was one day going to grow up to be a secretary, she would be the person who was taking all the notes and doing all the admin, and had prevented herself from really being able to climb up the ladder to where she wanted to be. And it was through the work that she was willing to do on herself that she was able to not only go finish her degree, but go do her master's degree and then move on to now, much bigger and higher and well-paid roles, like within the C-suite sort of realm. And for me, that's the impact. And it's not to say, look at me go, look at how great I am. It's about, that's the impact of what happens when we are able to connect to our own voice. And you know what, Kim? It takes a hell of a lot of courage to do it. I always speak about, needing a few new pairs of big girl pants, and whatever gender you subscribe to, if you're listening to this, whatever kind of big person pants you need, I reckon it requires quite a bit of that. And because it requires also the courage to look inside. And I think that's one thing that I think is really important to me is public speaking. For me, the transformation is an inside-out job. It's not just about, and then we do the outside stuff as well. Then the outside stuff becomes easy. It's like, okay, how do I structure a presentation and how do I stand and all of that sort of stuff.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And that courage about looking inside you is probably one of the scariest things for some people. And I know even those that have started on that journey. And it's because it's a journey, it's almost like that's too big, that's too grand, I don't want to go there, or it's too scary. They're going to uncover things. But you and I myself have been on a similar journey too. What you uncover is so beautiful and so remarkable. And I don't know about you, but I have got this appreciation for being human that is far greater than I could have ever imagined had I not gone on this journey. And, I look at public speaking and, I do quite a lot of public speaking myself as well. And I don't mind doing it. And I think part of the reason why I've never minded doing it, so I've had 30 years in financial services. And it's so interesting we're having this conversation because of the identity change I'm going through. It's been really easy because the stuff I'm talking about is not me. It's stuff that will help financial advisors or mortgage brokers or accountants grow their business. That's easy. I just have to learn the content or develop the IP and, get all the outside stuff working. But working on yourself and bringing that and that voice from within out into the open, whether it be with family or friends or colleagues, wow, a whole different ball game. Oh, wow, Bonita.
And I really love that for you as well, though, Kim, because you and I have had this, we've spoken about it before in terms of the transformation that you're going through from the Kim within the financial sector and moving into your own space and more of the current Kim where you're connecting more to the courageous aspects of and leadership and all of those kinds of things. And here's the really fun part for me is that I feel like, we get to reset whenever we want. And we get to tell life when we want to reset. We don't have to wait for life to come along and hit that reset button for us to be able to do it. And, that's what kind of happened to me at the beginning of the year as well, when through the work that I've been doing with Turn Up the U, it got to the point where living in New Zealand, I knew that my time there had come to an end. And I saw life checking out my reset button. And I was like, no, you ain't hitting it this time.
Is that why you moved? Because you said earlier on one of the resets was you'd gone from South Africa to New Zealand, clean slate. Now from New Zealand to Australia, to Sydney. But in Sydney, you weren't completely unknown. So you're not quite having a clean slate. So how have you managed that, I guess, that reset, given you're now not starting with a clean slate? Now you have got an identity, or you have got more of an identity, say, than the unknown when you moved to New Zealand. How do you go about doing that? Or how are you going about? Because I believe it's still a work in progress.
And I think it might be for the rest of my life, I think, Kim, who knows where I'm going to land up at the end of the day. No, Sydney has always been really close to my heart. From the moment I was there, I have family who live here, my brother's here, and through all the coaching studies that I had, that I've done, I have, a wonderful network of friends here as well. And so you're right, it wasn't a reset completely that I came here with not knowing anybody, but it's a new space, and I feel like the reset that I wanted was not to come and start all over again from a reinvention of this is who I was and this is who I am now, completely different. But I suppose it was, I know that I cannot stand on stage as a speaker and deliver my keynote, Turn Up the U, and ask everybody else in that audience to play a bigger game and to turn up the U in their own lives and to play, and to live a life that they're more capable of or reach their full potential if I'm not willing to take a risk and if I'm not willing to do the same myself.
Oh, I love that.
And I felt like it was time. It felt like I am so grateful to New Zealand. It'll always be one of the most sacred places in my heart for the people I know and met and the people I've journeyed with and the experiences that I had. And I feel like it was like a safe haven for me to explore me. I always say that I feel like New Zealand, the time I spent in New Zealand was really a time of coming home to me. Oh. And with that, I feel like now I'm here in Sydney in the big smoke, and and feel like I have the opportunity to explore what I want, what I'm doing, and my dreams, and to play a bigger game for myself. And so I feel like, Kim, it still has been scary as all hell, because there's been a lot of unknown, but at the same time, life is unfolding beautifully. And I think what you were speaking to courage and. I've got a whole new wardrobe of big girl pants. I think I might start my own line, actually.
Oh, I love that.
I'm going to get them branded. Just follow, watch this space. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, I really do. I feel like every day I'm challenged immensely and deeply to dig deep and to have the courage in a new space where, even though I do know a few people, it's a big city. It's a big country. And a lot of Australians will disagree and say, oh my God, Australia's so small. And I'm like, dude, I just came from New Zealand. Okay, just give me a chance. Like, let's just grow into this first of all, and then we'll. But Yeah, so I feel like it is, as a speaker, getting onto the speaking circuit here in Australia more so than what I was before, and putting myself out there, not as the Bonita the speaker from blah blah blah, but this is who I am now, and kind of getting into that, yeah.
Oh, I love, yeah, that's just so gorgeous. When you have gone on this journey now, what are you learning about yourself as you're getting older? And I say that because you're still very, very young. But what are some of the things that you're learning about yourself as time goes by that you didn't say no when you were younger?
That I didn't say no when I was younger.
That you didn't know, sorry.
Oh, sorry, that I didn't know when I was younger.
Yeah.
And it's really okay. It's really okay to be me. You know? And that I don't need the whole world to like me. I really fucking don't. And
Wow.
I spent my life, Kim, being a people pleaser. And I'm still a recovering people pleaser. I still find myself doing it and go, oh, shit, there it is again. Okay. But I'm getting to the age and stage of my life now where I'm like, do you know what? Like, I had enough of this shit. And actually, if you want to be a part of my life, this is what it looks like. And if you want to be a part of my world, then this is who I am. And if that's okay for you, that's wonderful. And if that's not okay for you, that's also wonderful. And then we can just choose to journey in different directions. And so I think that's probably the greatest and biggest gift that I think I am still gifting to myself as I grow older.
I completely understand and agree. And that ability to just be who you are, as you are, and that is not going to be everyone's cup of tea. I remember growing up, my mum used to always say to me, my mum's one of those really, really uber positive humans that, when you're a teenager, you want to sleep until midday. She's got the curtains open and what a beautiful day. And it's like, oh, get out of here. No. But she used to say to me, there will be times in your life where your light will shine too brightly and don't dim it down to fit them. Just accept that there are times when for some it's too bright and that's okay, but for others it's going to be just right. And I swear, Bonita, I'm now 51. It's probably taken me 50 years to go, yeah, hey, I get that and I accept it. Took a while, but we got there.
And it really is, Kim, and I think it is, again, that spiral of learning it at a deeper level and every time kind of letting go a little bit more and going, oh, hold on a second, you were a friend for this many years, but this is how you are now. And being okay with us going, hold on, we no longer fit. Our lives no longer fit. And that's okay. Whereas before, I just needed the whole bloody world to like me so that I could feel lovable. So that I could feel like I'm worthy, so that I could feel like, oh, if you like me, then I'm a good person. That's what it says about me. And now I'm like, I don't give a shit whether you think I'm a good person or not. I care whether I think I'm a good person, and I care whether I like me now, and I care whether I approve of me first. Because at the end of the day, I think there's a wonderful difference between belonging and fitting in that Brene Brown speaks about. And she spoke to a bunch of 8th graders about the difference and asked them to define it. And hopefully I can get this not necessarily verbatim, but the definition that they came up with for belonging is when I get to be me, I belong. When I have to be like you, I fit in. And I so love that. It was like, oh my God. And I speak about that in my keynote as well about turn up the you. And I say, I speak about in our lives about how we spent so much of our lives as human beings turning down specific parts of us in our lives, and whether that be turning down our personality, turning down our voice, turning down our courage, or it could be even, turning down our fun and our boldness and our directness, or whatever it might be. Or some people have said, your laugh is too weird. Can you just turn that down? Can you just turn it down a little bit? And I speak about it, Kim, and I talk about how throughout our lives we get given, from a very young age, we get given these codes of conduct. It's almost like they're just like handed out to us like these cards, like here you go. And it's teachers and it's our parents and it is friends and society and religion and culture and government. And everybody gives us these codes of conduct for how we're meant to live our lives. And codes of conduct can be really good. Like they tell us like which side of the road to drive on and how not to be a jerk at Christmas and, you know, why it's not a good idea to pitch up at work in your birthday suit and all these wonderful things. And but then there's some of them that I feel that these codes of conduct have never really been fit for purpose. That in fact they're so outdated, some of them, and they've gone on to do more harm than good. And I've come to call those our codes of conduct.
Oh, I love that.
Because very simply, codes of conduct are it's a set of rules, norms, and practices that limit us. And in the face of these codes of conduct, you know, I feel like throughout our lives we then have been knocked down and knocked back into this sort of state of protection in our lives, where, you know, as human beings we're wired for connection. But instead, when we get told to turn down the U because we don't fit into the code of conduct that exists in the world, that's no longer serving us, that then we tone down who we are in the face of that and bring less of ourselves to the world in a way, and it shows up in the ways, you know, Kim, compromise, people-pleasing, shape-shifting, suppression, push it down.
Oh, absolutely.
And I feel like that's been a journey of my own life, and that, you know, so when I speak about these things, that has been, that's been my life. You know,
but that gives you the authority, therefore, to speak about it, because you've got the lived experience. You've got the lived experience working on it, dealing with it. And as you say, it's going to be something you'll probably work on for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
But you're in there, you know, to go back to Brene Brown, you know, you've got to be in the arena. You know, you
Yes.
can't criticize others unless you're in there doing it yourself. You're in there doing it, you're learning, you're growing. And as you do, you're imparting that wisdom and helping others on their journey, albeit different, but on their journey to go deep and to find who they are. Because there's nothing worse than being in this world and not being able to be who you are. And I don't know about you, but I come across so many people and they don't necessarily articulate it like this, but that's exactly what's going on. They're trying to be everything for everyone else except themselves. And I would want to live like that.
It's really tough, you know, Kim, and the problem is that, you know, we are motivated, if we think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like we're motivated towards love and belonging. Like that is an intrinsic, irreducible need that we have as human beings. We cannot get self-esteem and we cannot actually get to self-actualization on that pyramid of hierarchical needs unless we have love and belonging. And the problem is that I find in my own life that I was doing for most of my life, and then also I find with a lot of the clients that I work with as well, you know, that we've spent so much of our lives oftentimes chasing that sense of love and belonging outside of ourselves from other people. And I think what I'm starting to lean into and what's really coming online for me now as a human being is that love and belonging, when we're constantly waiting for other people to give it to us, is something that can be either given to us or taken away. And we're constantly at the mercy of other people. And so that's why I believe that love and belonging are needs that first start from ourselves.
Oh, I know. You could not agree with you more. Could not agree. And actually, I don't know if you can see on my back wall, there's a statement in French. I can't say it in French because I can't speak. Well, I can actually only order a pizza with olives, but that's not going to help right now because that's not what the wall says. Yeah, exactly. But it says life is not worth living without love.
Oh, I love
and
that.
do you know, ironically, I've had that on my wall for donkey's years.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I really started exploring what love was. And, you know, initially it was, you know, being loved by other people, being validated and approved and all of that. Until then I went deeper and I realized, no, love starts with me and me loving me, not just saying the words, you know, the affirmation, you know, love yourself and all of that, but genuinely finding that love deep within inside that I have. And I take it everywhere I go because this is who I am inherently. And that place, when you start from there and then, you know, motivate or navigate the world, what a different place.
Because then we become home, right? And so this Gypsy Bon, who's been, you know, on this mission around the world, now living in Sydney, you know, and creating and starting a new home for myself here, now it becomes a place of where is home? Well, home's wherever I am and wherever I make it first. And then outside of that, there are the people and the things and all of those other wonderful things that then are included in that. Because you're right, Kim, otherwise it becomes a life of begging and chasing rather than a life of being.
Absolutely. Now, Bonita, on a completely different note,
Yes.
I have seen posts of you on LinkedIn where you have written music, played and sung, live sung. And I know, just again from, I haven't seen it live, but I have seen you when you do presentations and at the end you do a rap song. Talk to me about this and where this has come from, because it's, you know, you've got all this beautiful depth about you, and yet you've got this hilariously fun, energetic, just absolutely amazing person to be around kind of personality as well. Talk to me about that.
Thank you, Kim. That's very kind of you to say. So I went through a hip-hop phase, R&B phase when I was growing up, and music has always really played an important role in my life, you know, whether writing, singing, or playing it. And I used to sing with my mum in the church band, as you do. And when I was younger, I you know, wrote a few songs, you know, for some of the girls I fell in love with. And, you know, and at one point I wrote a rap song. I wrote a couple of rap songs when I went through my R&B phase. I thought I was pretty cool. I wasn't cool. I was very not cool. But, you know, I wore the big hip-hop pants, and I got my mum to make me these massive hip-hop pants out of, like, blue satin material. It was terrible. And but music, you know, Kim, music has always played such a beautiful role in my life in terms of, you know, especially singing, and even the writing of music, and it kind of is like a beautiful space of self-expression for me. I get to process my emotions and release them. I get to connect to myself, but also something bigger than myself. And especially singing, whenever I do it, I feel like by the end of it, I feel on top of the world. But 14 years ago, and I actually talk about this in my talk as well, 14 years ago, I wrote my last song, and I decided that was going to be it. You know, I'd written a song, and I thought to myself, well, it's not good enough, and nobody's going to want to listen to it, and it's not going to make me any money, so what's the point of doing it anyway? And so I stopped writing. And over the years, I thought about it and whatever, and I was like, nah. And, you know, I've sung, you know, but all covers and all that sort of thing. And then with all this turn up the U talk stuff that I've been doing, the universe was looking at me. I call my universe, and I don't know what everyone else calls theirs. Mine's universe. And I was like, the universe was like, okay, so you want to talk about this turn up the U stuff, right? Well, you know, you're going to have to live this stuff yourself. I'm like, really? Can't just stand up there and talk about it? Come on. And it was just, last year I went and visited my family around the world, and I called it my World Family Tour, and because I've got family all over the world. And from that experience, I got caught in Hurricane Ian, which was in Florida, the meanest hurricane that's hit Florida ever in the whole history. And I had various experiences that were hair-raising and wonderful at the same time. And I got back to New Zealand because I was living there when I got back, and I wrote down all the things I learned. I was like, look, it was really good, and it was also really hard, so I better write down what the hell I learned from this so that I don't have to learn it again. And as I was writing it, it just, I don't know, Kim, it just became a bloody rap song. And I just was like, okay, well, how does this work, and what does it do? And from there I thought, what if it could be a rap song? And I was like, what if it's about turn up the U? And I was like, shit, and it just started evolving, and the more I started playing with it, the more it evolved, and I put music to it and started playing with it. And so turn up the U really is. And so at the end of my keynote, what I do is I speak to people and invite them to join me, not to join me in the rap song from a place of telling me how good my song is, because let's face it, I'm not after Missy Elliott's job. But my intention behind it and doing it on stage is to create an experience for people, an opportunity for them to experience what it feels like where we can all consciously choose to turn up the U in our own lives. And so whether that's in the moment, turning up a bit of fun, or turning up a bit of spontaneity, turning up a little bit of personality as they find their own dance moves when I invite them to join me and stand up and put their hands together and wave their hands in the air like they just don't care, you know. It's a lot of fun, and it's really energizing, and it's the first time in 14 years that I've written a song. And so I say to the audience that I can't ask them to do it if I'm not willing to go first. And so I say, I'm going to not only share my song with you, I'm going to perform it for you, and then invite them to get up and have a bit of a boogie and a party with me. And I think the best part for me is that it's not about me. The best part for me is watching people actually stand up and just having so much fun with it. And, for them to remember then walking away from that, what it feels like when we consciously choose to turn up the you, and how we have that. We have that ability every single moment of our lives. It just depends on what we choose to do with it.
But isn't that the whole premise of public speaking too? It's actually not about you. It's about them. It's about the audience. It's about how they feel, what they experience, what they walk away with, what they remember, what they do differently in their world. And by the way, they will also walk out with a big, huge smiley face. I'm seeing you do that. I'd love to get you to do one bar of your rap song. Would you do that? You just said spontaneity.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. Just give us one bar and then I'll get to the final question.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, how the hell does it start again?
Even the chorus or anything, just one bit.
Yeah, sure. I've got to just remember the words. Hold on, let me get the words up in front of me, because without the music, I think I might just actually...
Yeah, and I can do the...
Okay,
in the back.
So usually what I do is I change into a big gold jacket and a hip hop cap, so that but anyway, we'll do this here. So it goes, welcome to my world family tour rap. Hurricane Ian, Hugh Jackman on Broadway, and a kaleidoscope of hard and happy moments. Here's what I learned, I want to share it with you. Now it may be nothing new, but it may save you a few heartbeats here or there, sparking more compassion and care, spreading empathy, cause it's the currency of connection to you and to me. So raise your hands like you just don't care, but you know that we do. Maybe it's time for us to choose a new adventure in time and in place that reconnects us with purpose and with leaning into our greatest potential and dreams that leads us to being the greatest we can be. But before we do, we got to remember our own tune, not to turn up the you in all that we do. And then it goes in the chorus.
Oh, you are wicked. Thank you. Big high five.
Oh my God. Too much fun, so much fun.
You rock star. I mean, you can't be talking about spontaneity and doing something like that and not actually doing it for us, right? Oh, thank you. You are just golden. Okay, so on a more serious note.
Yes.
What is the next big courageous step for you? Which one of many?
Yeah. Where do we start? How much time? No, I'm kidding. Do you know, Cam, I think it really is one of the things that I would really love to push myself to doing, and actually even in the language of that pushing, to release the word pushing and to rather invite myself and really encourage myself and support myself in doing, is to step up and to get out there and to promote myself more as a speaker and to get out on more stages, as many stages as I possibly can, for the love of it, and also because I feel like there's a wonderful opportunity to connect with beautiful humans around the world. And that would be my dream, is to connect with humans around the world and support them in being able to connect to their own hearts, to connect to their own voice, and to for them to walk away feeling that they are empowering their own selves to turn up the you more in their own lives. And so, for me, that really is another really big step, because there are a lot of great speakers out there in the world. And so, leaning or getting rid of the comparisonitis and getting rid of the critic and all of the other voices in there, and going, right, where's the big girl pants? We need a bit of those. Let's put the gold jacket on and let's go do it. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. And no doubt next time I'll get you back on this podcast and you will be telling us about your global tour, speaking around the world, but not just speaking, actually changing people's lives. That is so cool. Now, talk to me about the work you're doing. I know you are running a public speaking program. Talk to us about that, and if people want to get on board and they want to start turning up more of them, so turn up their you, how does that work?
Thank you, Kim. Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for all your beautiful encouragement. And you're so awesome, like really amazing. I love your energy as well. And I think that's what makes it so beautiful is the work that you're doing and the platform that you're providing for others as well to really bring all of ourselves to life. So, yeah, I just want to take that moment to acknowledge you as well. Really loving this program that I have. It's called the Speaker Circle, and so I work with very small groups of people. It's all online, And we do it it's like an accelerated public speaking platform and program where we work over a period of 4 weeks every Monday for 2 hours. It's all virtual. We do a lot of practical, but we, so we do a lot of the training stuff, but then we get into the really practical stuff and really provide, participants to come and practice in a very safe space. With a very tight group of people, and we really focus on the three main areas, which is the personal. We unpack what I have is my Speaker Circle of Excellence model that I've created over the last 20 years of working in this space. And so part of that is, how do I connect to me as a speaker? And how do I connect to my own courage, as you've put it there as well? And how do I connect to the essence of who I am and my authenticity and bring more of that to how I speak? And then we get to the connecting with the next part of the model, which is practical side of things. Like, what do I say? Like, how do I put this thing together? Where do I start? What's the process? What are the steps that I need to take to put together an influential, persuasive presentation that is going to allow me to increase my confidence, but also to have that level of influence? And then the final part is the performance side of things. Like, how do I deliver it? How do I go about delivering this beautiful piece of content and all of my ideas in a way that is engaging, where I'm dynamic, where I have the audience listening, when I'm captivated? How do I go about taking them on a journey with me from start to finish? And so that's really about the part where we build that level of credibility. And so the four things that I sort of focus on with my Speaker Circle program is, how do we go about increasing confidence, clarity, credibility? And then the fourth one is that conviction, really standing in conviction. And in fact, all of that is kind of bundled under the full umbrella of connection. And so for me, public speaking starts with connection to self first, and then to the content, and then with our audience, and being able to really make the difference and the impact that we want. So
wow.
It is a short, accelerated program, but really getting in there. It's for thought leaders, experts who have, you know that you've got a mission, you know that you've got messages, and you've got something to say, but it's just that, how do I do it? There may be some fear, and really just wanting to take your speaking capabilities to the next level. I also work with mid to senior leaders in corporate spaces as well, business owners, and just anyone who really wants to take their public speaking capabilities to the next level.
Oh, that is absolutely beautiful. Oh, I know so many people, including myself, that need to do your program. So we will put all the details in the show notes. Tell me, though, if people want to get in contact with you for other reasons, where should they head?
My website's probably the best place, so bonitanuttall.com. Also, my email address is really easy, bonita@bonitanuttall.com. And so, just probably those are the easiest ways to get in touch with me.
Excellent. I will put those in the detail. And seriously, anyone who wants to get out there and be a better versions of themselves, not even publicly, but just in their everyday life, oh my goodness, you've got to go and get yourself, some training from Bonita. That was absolutely golden. Literally, I could have this conversation with you all day. Thank you. Thank you from deep inside my heart for coming on board, for sharing, for giving us that rendition of the rap song. Very impromptu. I know you weren't expecting that. Thank you for all your sharing and this incredible work you're doing. And Australia is very, very happy that you're over here with us now. And we plan on looking after you, so you stick around for the long haul. Bonita, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kim. Thank you so much. I just want to quickly say, if I may, just thank you again for having me on board here. Thank you to everyone who's listening, and for being here. I really am grateful for the opportunity to come and share and to connect with you. And I love you. You are amazing. The work that you're doing, your energy is inspiring. What you are, who you are, is really inspiring. And I have no doubt you don't need my programs. You're kicking ass out there already. So thank you for the kind words. But thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. And everyone else, no matter what it is, go out there, take the courageous action, and know that you've got this. Oh my.